Nestled along Main Street in Denison, Vasquez Mexican Food serves up traditional favorites inspired by family history.
Well, it all began with curiosity. I would watch my grandmother as a young boy, probably about the age of 7. My grandmother, Rosa Oliva, my mother's mom. And the reason why the curiosity was because she was a diabetic and they had to amputate one of her arms. So she rolled tortillas with one hand and would flip them on her arm that was cut off. So being a one-handed person, you wonder, how is she doing that? So watching her, I learned not only to make tortillas, but also all the other special dishes that she presented to us as a grandmother.
Not only can you give credit to Ricardo's grandmother, but his father further inspired his passion for food.
Yes, he was an executive chef at many of the major hotels in Dallas. And I also had the privilege to work with my dad under him as one of his first cooks. And this is where I learned a lot of hotel cooking and got to meet a lot of important people.
As a young adult, Ricardo hung up the apron to pursue what many may call a regular life. But we'll see where plans begin to change.
But by the age of 18, I left the kitchen, not knowing if I would ever return, joined the military, and proceeded with my family, my wife, my daughter, and kids to come. Then later, God called me to the ministry in 1986. And in 1986, we took off and went to college, me and the wife, and we got our degrees. And we also then followed up as a pastor. And from there, God put something on my heart as I was pastoring in Lincoln, Nebraska. He said, now I'm going to give you the restaurant that you've always desired. And I told the Lord, well, Lord, I enjoy what I do now. Can we just forget about the restaurant business? And the Lord said, no. When my people delight themselves in me, I always give them their heart's desire. And I've never given you that desire fulfillment. And God began to work it out.
It seems when God has a plan, there's not much you can do to stop it, even if that includes Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes, Vasquez Mexican Food was birthed in Lincoln, Nebraska. It started as a small eatery of 20 seats, and it began to feed one of the major hospitals there, catering, construction sites, and from there it birthed a second restaurant on Main Street, and that one sat around 40 people. And we got to know many people, not only the UNL football players, but the governor, the mayor, and it began to grow. And from then, once we left Lincoln, we moved to Dallas to pioneer a new church. And I'm not thinking about Vasquez Mexican Food anymore.
So that must be the end of the story, right? A military veteran turned pastor turned restaurant owner moves to Dallas, and it's over. Well, not quite.
But God continued to put that on my heart. So we opened Vasquez Mexican Food on Garland Road in Jupiter. And it seemed like that restaurant was just a part of my life. So when we left Dallas years later and decided to semi-retire, we found that the little small town of Denison was probably the place we wanted to be. So we packed up and moved to Denison, and here we are. And guess what? God is still giving me my heart's desire.
And now the big moment. Let's talk food, specifically the potato enchilada, their signature dish, with its home firmly secured at Vasquez Mexican Food.
Well, that's something she was taught as she was growing up with her family. She comes from San Luis Potosí, and there in that town and her home, they made the potato enchilada. But the difference of the one that we have here, which is not much different, It's a dry enchilada without any sauce. But then I took my dad's recipe of a red enchilada sauce and I applied it to my grandmother's potato enchilada. And that's what you and I eat today.
But it really comes down to the little things: quality, commitment, freshness.
We take pride in whatever we serve: chips, potato enchiladas, menudo, or flour tortillas. They're rolled out every morning. The specialties that people look for and sometimes are hard to find, even in Texas.
The weekend to eat some menudo and tamales and the tortillas. And then today I came to get some menudo to take back to Dallas. It's awesome. It's really, really good. The enchiladas, potato enchiladas, are really, really delicious.
In the end, it comes down to balance between God, family, and business.
It's, when you raise 5 kids, and now I have plenty of grandkids also with that, you learn to take time for everything. There's a time and a season for everything under the heavens. You find that in Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
Vasquez Mexican Food, 409 West Main Street in Denison. I'm Warner Miller.